Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's wait for it to kick in, everybody. All right, here we are. Okay, YouTube is awake. You guys know how this goes. I got to wait for it to kick in, and then I kind of start dancing, and Rockfin is awake too. We are totally 100% awake. We're even a little early. Huh? That doesn't happen too much. Venetia, what's up? You're first in the chat. Hello from London. Oh, hello, London. And let me tell you something. I miss you so much. I've been thinking about London since I was there, and it's been a couple years at this point since I've been to London. But I can't wait to see you again. I will be there on tour, and I'm thinking 2023. I mean, these days I'm kind of trying to plan ahead as much as you can with, with the state of the world. It's hard to plan ahead. But as far as touring is concerned, I'm kind of planning ahead these days as much as I possibly can. And if everything moves forward in the world, London will be in 2023. London, well, in the UK. I mean, England, Scotland, probably some parts of Ireland. I don't know about maybe Wales. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, you get the idea. Anyway, what is up, everybody? Happy Monday. Which is Happy Mondays. Great band. And we actually have some music news today, which is appropriate for Monday. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is safe. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left is a place to find all the content creators and streamers you know and love, compiled into one convenient list for you. And that list gets updated twice a day. How convenient is that? Very convenient. To find out everything that got going on and to subscribe to their Discord community, check them out at independentleft.media. That's independentleft.media. So, first of all, everybody, it's a solo show today. It's just me. And here's why. So, I realized around the time the pandemic started, I started constantly having a guest on Get Your News On with Ron. And the main reason I did that was because we were all freaking alone all the freaking time. We were all alone all the time. And so I wanted to have a guest on. So I started having guests on way more often. And then, it's sort of one of those things. When I'm doing more short form content, I think, man, I really miss streaming. And then when I'm doing more streaming, I think, man, I really miss doing short form content. And then when I have guests on all the time, I think, man, I really miss just doing some solo shows sometimes. And then when I do solo shows all the time, I think, man, I really miss having a guest on. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a little bit of everything so that way everything stays fun and fresh. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little bit I've been doing more short videos on the beach. I'm going to continue those. You guys have been enjoying those. And those are fun to make. It gives me an excuse to just walk around on the beach with my phone, just talking to my phone. And then I post it on the TikTok, which I still haven't figured out. That's why I call it the TikTok. I don't know what I'm doing on it. Please follow me there. And of course, these videos also on Instagram, Twitter. Instagram, I'm still figuring out too, quite frankly. In Instagram, I still have not. I mean, I figured it out. No. All right. Let me retract that. Instagram, I figured it out. I'm just not super active on there. TikTok, I just don't quite get yet. I mean, I know how to do basic things, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And that's just the way it is. So we got a lot to talk about today, and I'm going to start out with a moment of sincerity. And I want to say thank you to everybody for all of your love and support and emails and tweets and messages this past, I guess it's been about 5 days now. And as some of you may know, Lucy got sick last week. She got sick on Wednesday, and I'm not gonna talk about this too long because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world I want to talk about. But Lucy, Tuesday night, I got home. I was actually doing a stand-up show, and I got home, and my wife said, Lucy's been a little aloof. Like she's just been a little lackadaisical and she wasn't meowing for her food, which is not like her, especially at the time of night it was. It was right around the time we feed her and she was not wanting food. She wasn't whining for her food, wasn't doing anything. We thought that's weird. So I go, "Hey, Lucy, what's up?" And she was just like, "Eh." And I fed her, and she didn't really eat her food much. And then she was throwing up and having some diarrhea. So we realized something is seriously wrong. Got her to the vet the next day, and I don't need to go into all the details here. But Lucy is doing better. It's you know, she's 15 years old. So when a cat her age, when something's wrong, you get a little more worried than if they're a kitten. If she was 10 years younger, I'd probably just think, ah, gee, she probably swallowed a bug. Let's get her some vitamin injections. But a cat her age, you get a little more worried. And fortunately, what's going on is very, very manageable and treatable and for the most part curable. So that's the good news. I mean, obviously, we got some health news we were not thrilled about getting, um, but it could have been way, way worse than it was. It could have been infinitely worse than it was. So we ran all the tests to find out what was wrong with her, and while there was some inevitable bad news, as you knew there would be, there was also some good news too. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, well, it's not this, this, and this, which is great. So we got that news, started her on some medications. Right now, the big thing is she has to eat more bland food than she would like. And this new food she has to eat, she freaking hates. So on Wednesday, as you know, I was completely gutted. I canceled the show. I didn't do anything. I was just a zombie. I went to the vet. And as some of you may know who have pets, when you go to the vet these days, you don't get to go in with your animal because of the pandemic. You have to wait outside while your animal is in there alone. So Lucy, not only was Wednesday the longest time Lucy's ever been in the vet in her life. She was at the vet, I think it was about 7 hours when all was said and done. She's never been at the vet that long before in her life. She's been sick before throughout her life, but even when she's been sick, it's never been that long. And not only was it the longest time she's ever been at the vet, but it was the longest time she's ever been at the vet, and I wasn't there. So that's significant. It was her longest time at the vet, and I wasn't there. So I was just worried sick. I was just decimated and worried sick about her, wondering what was going to happen. And yeah. So what I did was I panicked and I had a freaking miserable day. And then she was not eating much, which was the most worrisome part. When cats that age aren't eating, that's the scariest thing. So I called the vet and I'm like, look, I really got to get her eating. So, long story short, I figured out to get her to eat the food to get her to take her medicine, I have to just give her the food she likes, which the vet said, look, if that's what it takes to make sure she's still eating and to make sure she's taking her medicine, that's what we got to do. So I give her the food that she likes along with her medicine. And she's been responding positively to that. She will take that. She'll take her medicine if it's with the food she likes. The bland food that she has to eat, it's been an uphill battle getting her to eat it. So, but each day she gets a little bit stronger and a little bit more like herself. Like so far, and hopefully that stays the same. I just knocked on wood. So far, with each passing day, she has gotten stronger. She has gotten more like herself. She has even played a little bit. One of the things her and I do that you guys know, I give her, I brush her, and then after I brush her, I give her a treat on her cat tree. But she has to climb up on her cat tree to get it. I wasn't sure if she'd be up for that, but she was. She came over to me when it was time. I called her. She came over. Not many cats come when you call them, but Lucy does. I called her over to get brushed. She came over, and then I was like, should I just let her eat the treat out of my hand? And I was like, no, I'm gonna see if she can do this. And I put the tree, or excuse me, I put the treat on her cat tree, and she jumped up to it. And when she wasn't eating, the first thing I gave her to try to get her to eat anything was a treat. I just said, I got to get her to eat something. And she was on her tree, not, she was not happy. She had not eaten in a little while. I was getting scared. I put a treat on her cat tree and she ate it. And I started crying. And it's been, and she's been getting better since. So, I babbled on about this for way too long and I apologize, but I hope you understand that the past 4 or 5 days, I was just completely decimated. I was so scared. And because, Lucy's not a super young cat and you get scared. What if they don't snap out of this? And fortunately, she is moving forward. She's on her tree right now, napping, which is typically what she does right now. So she is moving forward, and for that, I'm so thankful, and thank you guys so much for all your well wishes, and thank you for your understanding, especially to all the patrons. I didn't do any of the streams I was supposed to. I just kind of put everything on hold for a little while because I was just too depressed to do anything. I was at the live Jimmy Dore show in Vegas on Saturday, and that was the first time I was sort of functioning again, really. I did the game show with Graham on Thursday. So I was doing some things, but it was just taking all of my emotional bandwidth to just chill for a little bit and you know, not hyper focus on things. And I also just a little message as far as wellness goes, and this is to whoever needs to hear it. I know that a lot of people are going through a lot of hardships right now, um, with the state of the world. And one thing that I did that has helped me is, you know, I thought about the last time I was really in a rut, like the one I was in this week, where I just couldn't focus on anything. I mean, I was just so depressed. And I know we all get like that, especially during times like these. And what I did that helped was, and maybe this isn't applicable to everyone else, but um, because our journeys are all different. But for me, it was like I thought about when was the last time I was this, just leveled. This just like and I guess it's just depression, right? Like you're just so sad that you just can't even do anything. You can't do anything that brings you you're just kind of going through the motions, doing everything you can. And I thought, when was the last time I was this way? And the last time I was this way was a little while ago. It was a couple years ago. I had gone through a very bad breakup and I had lost my condo in the process. And I was living out of my car and crashing on friends' couches. And I was in Tennessee. So I kind of thought about that where I was just like, gee, when was the last time I felt this way? I was in Tennessee and I was, pretty much homeless. Well, now I'm not, I have a nice apartment and I have a wonderful wife who was also being an absolutely wonderful caretaker to Lucy along with myself. So she had two humans that were doing everything they absolutely could to help her get better. Both my wife and myself. In fact, my wife came up with the idea of, putting the medicine on a spoon with the food that she likes. So now she associates that spoon with food that she likes. And her medicine's in there too, but she doesn't protest it because she knows that the food that she likes the most is in there. And then in her bowl, there's some of the food that she likes and some of the food that she has to eat that she really doesn't like. And getting her to eat it has been difficult. So, I guess my kind of overall message to everyone is just, you know, I know it's a cliche, but it really does help to just focus on the things that you do have. And that has helped me through all this. I focused on, the fact that my wife is doing everything she can for Lucy, the fact that Lucy is getting stronger and better, the fact that our vets were very good. We're lucky that there was a decent vet that was really thorough and very helpful throughout all this. We're lucky, my neighbor even texted me and said, "Hey, I got to go to PetSmart for my dog. Do you need anything?" Not everyone has neighbors like that, but I do. I'm a lucky guy. So I mean, my parents were concerned and they were checking in on her. I mean, just all those things that it just makes you feel a little better. And of course, I last but not least, just to reiterate, and to all of you for your emails and your tweets and your messages, thank you so very much. Thank you. And I'll of course keep everybody updated. I promise not to go on and on about it like I did today, but again, it was a pretty heavy thing last week, and thank you all for your patience and for your support during my hiatus here. And Lucy is doing better, which I'm beyond thrilled to report. She is doing better. She's not totally out of the woods yet, but each day is a little better than the last, and she's getting closer and closer to her old self, which is great. And, this morning she was meowing for food. She was ready for it. And, she ate the food. She's mastered eating the food she likes around the food she doesn't like. She's mastered that. So, but as long as she keeps getting better, that's okay. We'll handle it. We'll manage it. All right. We got to get to some news. So I tweeted this out and I think some people weren't quite sure what I meant by it because I said, "NO friends, how are y'all?" Now, I meant New Orleans friends, which I apologize for not. I apologize for just saying New Orleans. I didn't mean to do that. I mean, I know it's all of Louisiana. I wasn't trying to discount the rural areas. I just, you just hear about the evacuation in New Orleans, so it's just the first thing on your mind. And so I just said, "NO friends, how are y'all?" And some people I think didn't know what I meant by that. And I think some of them thought I meant like, "No friends, how are you?" Because people have been asking me how I've been the past 5 days because of Lucy. Like people have been, "How are you? How's Lucy?" Which again, thank you so freaking much. I can't. There are not words for how grateful I am, and I'm gonna stop reminding you every 10 seconds because we do have a show to do. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you so freaking much. But yeah, like I think people weren't sure what I meant by that. Or like no friends, like I don't have any friends. How are you guys? Because I don't have friends. What I meant was New Orleans friends. But anyway, so here's what's going on. This is a headline today. Hurricane Ida slams native communities in Louisiana as New Orleans loses electricity and COVID rages. Hurricane Ida has completely knocked out power. This is from Democracy Now! To the city of New Orleans and reversed the flow of the Mississippi River after it hit southern Louisiana and Mississippi, flooding the area with storm surges. The Category 4 storm hit on the same date Hurricane Katrina devastated the area 16 years earlier. This is a storm like no other, says Monique Verdon, a citizen of the United Homa Nation and part of the grassroots collaborative Another Gulf is Possible. This is part of South Louisiana that is losing land at one of the fastest rates. She also discusses how the storm hit the area as the Delta has been raging in the Mississippi River Delta. Now, how does climate change play into all this, folks? They mentioned it's the biggest storm in history. Well, that's because due to climate change, the waters are warming. And because the waters are warmer, that makes the storms more severe. So that's why this storm is even more severe than storms of the past. And climate change, as a climate scientist who occasionally comes on this show, Peter Kalmus reminds us, climate change, it's like an elevator. We can't get off the elevator. We're already on the freaking elevator. There's no getting off of it. But we can do something about how high we go up. That's something we can do something about. And we got to do everything we can so that we don't keep going as high as possible. That's what needs to happen. So New Orleans is completely without power right now. A lot of parts of Louisiana completely without power now. People have had to evacuate. People don't know what's going to happen next. And a lot of this is pretty much all of this is due to climate change. This is going to be a regular thing if we don't act now and if we don't act bold. And the clock is ticking. We're not out of time, but time ain't on our side. So, Hurricane Ida, it's hitting out there. And, please keep an eye out on social media for any mutual aid efforts that are going on. I'm going to do that, and I encourage you all to do the same. And if I see anything that is worth sharing, I will tweet that out. So please make sure you're following me on all social media, but especially Twitter. That's where I'm most active. It's, of course, at Ron Placone. If you didn't know, please make sure you're following me on Twitter at Ron Placone. And any mutual aid efforts I see that I think are noble and worth sharing, I will, of course, share because we're really going to need to help each other out through all this. We really are. So right now, that's the main update I got. All right, we're going to talk about the recall in a little bit, but first, we got a quick music story. So this has been in the news for a little bit, but I wanted to save it for a Music Monday. You guys know that I am a huge Nirvana fan. Nirvana is one of my favorite bands. Kurt Cobain changed my freaking life, even though I did not discover his band until after he was dead. And the reason that is because I discovered Nirvana and I freaking loved it. I'd never heard anything like Nirvana. I was about 9, 10 years old. Prior to that, I had only heard classic rock from my parents, which I loved and still do, by the way. I freaking loved it. But I never really heard anything other than the stuff on the radio. I never really had something to call my own. And then one day, my aunt, my mom's younger sister, gave me a cassette tape. And side A of the cassette tape was Nirvana's Nevermind. Side B was Hootie and the Blowfish, that first Hootie and the Blowfish album, the one with like Hold My Hand. And I didn't hate Hootie and the Blowfish, but I didn't connect with it the way I connected with Nirvana Unplugged in New York. So what I would do is I would have my little cassette Walkman and I would listen to Unplugged in its entirety. And then when it came time for the Hootie and the Blowfish side, I would just fast forward through it to get back to Nevermind Unplugged and listen to Nirvana Unplugged. I just named two of their albums, Nirvana Unplugged, and listen to that again. And then I decided I really love Nirvana, so I got Nevermind on cassette tape. Again, these are going back to cassettes. For a long time, even when CD players were first introduced, a lot of people still had Walkmans and stuff like that. Because when CD players were first introduced, portable CD players rather, they were shitty for a while. Like the first portable CD players, they weren't that good. They would skip like a motherfucker. They weren't that great. So a lot of people still had Walkmans, especially people who would like jog and stuff. They still had Walkmans because CD players, even though they were like more advanced technologically, they kind of just sucked. And then eventually portable CD players got better and no one had a cassette thing anymore. So yeah, so that was what I would do. And I got Nevermind and that changed my freaking life. Nevermind was like, yeah, it was just off to the races. Game over. So here's the news related to Nirvana, folks. Nirvana sued by the baby from Nevermind's album cover. So the album cover of Nevermind is a naked baby, as you see here. I'm sure y'all are familiar with this cover. You've probably seen it before. Spencer Eldon, the man who was photographed, this is from the BBC. Spencer Eldon, the man who was photographed as a baby on the cover of Nirvana's Nevermind, is suing the band, alleging sexual exploitation. The cover depicts Eldon as a 4-month-old in a swimming pool, grasping for a dollar bill that's being dangled in front of him on a fishing line. Definitely a commentary about capitalism. And by the way, in the early 90s, when everybody was drinking the Clinton Kool-Aid and celebrating this cool president who played the saxophone, and everybody was celebrating the new conservative Democrats, Kurt Cobain was talking about pot, was talking about feminism, and identified as a socialist. That was in the early 90s. One of the biggest rock stars in the world, when asked about politics, would say, I'm a socialist. God, I wish he had lived. I really wish Kurt Cobain had lived. Anyway, I think we all do. But all right, so that's the cover. All right, so Spencer Eldon, this guy who, by the way, recreated this album cover multiple times throughout his life. Multiple times throughout his life, he recreated. In fact, I think they have one of the photos. Yeah, there's one of the photos. So this is him. He recreated the photo, and they point this out. Eldon has recreated the album cover several times as a teenager and an adult, always wearing swimming trunks to mark Nevermind's 10th, 20th, and 25th anniversaries. So he's done this 3 times in his life. He's recreated this photo. So here's what he's saying in the lawsuit. Now, they point out here in the article, non-sexualized photos of infants are generally not considered child pornography under new U.S. law. But the Eldon's lawyer says because of the dollar bill, it makes the minor seem like a sex worker. Yeah. The legal case also alleges that Nirvana had promised to cover Eldon's genitals with a sticker, but the agreement was not upheld. So the way that story has been told was they were debating whether or not to leave it in. And apparently Kurt Cobain said something. Kurt Cobain wanted to, and this is kind of like, this was in the book Come As You Are. And this was sort of like just accounts from interviews and stuff. But allegedly what happened was Kurt Cobain himself said it'd be funny if they put a sticker on the album that said, if this photo offends you, you're a closeted pedophile. And so after that suggestion by Kurt Cobain, or maybe it wasn't closeted pedophile, but it was something along those lines. I mean, don't quote me verbatim there, but he said something along the lines of, if this photo offends you, you're a closeted pedophile. And so after that suggestion, that creative suggestion from Kurt Cobain, the label decided, we're just going to leave the photo as is. And that's what happened. And again, this guy had no problem for years. Again, he's an infant. If a naked infant offends you or stimulates something sexual in you, a naked infant, something is seriously wrong with you. You are deranged, and you need professional help. I'm not trying to be funny here. You need professional help. Get professional help. It's an infant. So anyway, he's suing. All of a sudden, it's a problem for him. Now, in fairness to him, and I think the article goes on to point it out, his parents were just friends with the person doing the photo shoot, and he got, here it goes. In 2008, Spencer's father, Rick, recounted the photo shoot, saying he had been offered $200 to take part by Weddle. That was the photographer who was a family friend. We just had a big party at the pool. No one had any idea what was going on. The family quickly forgot the photo shoot until 3 months later. They saw the Nevermind album cover blow up. 2 months after that, Geffen Records sent the 1-year-old a platinum album and a teddy bear. So my personal take on it, he should have been given more than 200. I mean, they should have, his parents should have worked out some kind of merchandising deal. I'm sure they had no idea this album was going to go on to be what it was. And also, just to another thing here, album covers are typically, when someone does a cover for an album, it's sort of just what I believe in law is considered a work for hire, meaning you are just paid to do that work, you deliver the work, and that is the end of the relationship. You are compensated for your creation, and that's it. That's very typical. So this guy just being like, hey, here's $200. We took this photo. That's a pretty typical thing. However, what I would say here, because that is a person's likeness, and a person's likeness and direct image, it's a photo of them, a naked photo even, because their image is associated with this iconic album cover, I think you could make the case that they should be given, a percentage of merchandising, because it is their total likeness that is this cover. It's not like it's a drawing. It's not like it's an artistic creation that someone made as a work for hire. It is someone's actual likeness. So I think his parents, back in the day, could have been like, hey, can we get 1% of all merchandising from this? And had that been agreed to, this Spencer dude probably never would have had to work a day in his freaking life. So, I do think something like that wouldn't have been inappropriate in this case and totally would have been reasonable. But I think this lawsuit is just kind of a money grab. I mean, you were fine for it your whole life. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. And making those kind of claims over this cover, I think you just kind of want a money grab. I think that's what they're trying to do here. I don't think. Why would you recreate something multiple times if it was something that you were so ashamed of or terrified of? I mean, you could have just no one would have known. You know what I mean? Like no one would know that was you even if you didn't bring it up publicly so frequently. So yeah, I think this lawsuit is just kind of a money grab, if I'm being honest. Um, but I do think when you see what the album went on to be, you know, I mean, I think it's like I bet those parents wish they would have had a merchandising deal, and I don't think it's inappropriate. I think that's the case. I mean, if the guy really wanted to make a case, that's the case he should have made. He should have been like, look, I think because it's my image, because it's my likeness, because I was an infant at the time and couldn't consent to anything, I just want a piece of the merchandising pie. I just want like a reasonable piece of that merchandising pie. I think that's the right thing to do. I was an infant. It's not like I could work out my own contract. It's not like I could even talk to an attorney. You know, I get it. No one knew what this album was going to be. I get it that at the time, like we didn't know what this was going to be, and it was just $200. Cool. But come on, this went on to be one of the most significant rock albums in the world. And all I'm asking, dude, I'm the baby in that picture. Can I just get come on, give me a little taste of that. I think that would have been a little more reasonable than saying, "Oh, this is exploitation of a minor. This is sexualized." Come on. There was no sexual intent behind that album cover. None. So anyway, that's my take on that. We'll see where it goes. I mean, people have been doing parodies of this left and right, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I think they're gonna make a hard case that he was so damaged by this, even though he recreated it multiple times in his life voluntarily, and that this is some kind of exploitation, or that it's somehow sexualized. It's not. There's nothing sexual about that album cover. All right. So, let's get over to the recall, shall we? There's a recall election happening here in California. It is to recall Governor Gavin Newsom, who I'm not a fan of, but we're going to unpack this from every angle, and I'm going to tell you guys what I personally am going to do, how I'm going to vote. So, let me start by just talking about the system in general. As many of you know about me, I have no respect, none, for our electoral system. I think it is disgusting beyond comprehension. It is corrupt to the gills. It is up for sale to the highest bidder. Wall Street owns both major parties. Both major parties are crooked to the gills. They do everything they can to make sure that nobody progressive gets in. They do everything they can to stop that from happening. They have their consultants and their lobbyists who are also corrupt to the gills, and that's the game you got to play. As a result, it attracts the most mediocre, at best, of person. Most people who run for office are blank suits who just come from money and power. So it's just what they know. They have no ideas, or they have bad ideas. Or if they have no ideas, they have people feeding them bad ideas that they don't have the acumen to not go along with. That's over 90% of the people in office. Probably more like 98, 99. Occasionally, you see some people do some okay things in their district, sure. Occasionally, you see some diamonds in the rough. But most of the time, if you go into office and you have good intentions and you actually stand for something and you have principles, they put you under their thumb as best they can. And if they're having trouble doing that, they freaking get rid of you. That's what happens most of the time. Pretty much all the time. From Mike Gravel to Dennis Kucinich to Bernie Sanders. And now we're seeing that with the squad too. So that's usually what happens in our politics. It's a system disgusting to the gills. And it cannot be saved. It cannot be redeemed. And all politicians are part of it. All of them are part of it. Um, you know, the ones that that have good intentions, they either fall in line or they get out. You either fall in line or you get out. That's what happens. So that's how I feel about our electoral system. I despise it. I really do. And I think we'd be better off with a people's legislature. I think we'd be better off getting rid of the Senate, getting rid of the House, and just having a people's legislature. And a people's legislature would have a lot of problems, and there would be a lot of corruption that would happen. And there would need to be a lot of policies to protect people so that it doesn't just become a corporate giveaway. But there is no way it would be worse than what we have now. No freaking way. No way would it be worse. Because instead of a Wall Street puppet and Wall Street and then regular people, you just cut out the middleman and it's just Wall Street v. working people. That's better than Wall Street and a middleman puppet who's really just doing what Wall Street wants them to. And then the people. Why not just have Wall Street and the people? So anyway, that's how I feel about our electoral system. Now, you might ask yourself, gee, is there things we could do that would somehow make our system even worse? Our system that has gerrymandering and the electoral college and super delegates and unlimited money in politics and corporate influence, and Wall Street owns both parties, and there's they do everything they can to stifle progressive candidates. They do everything they can to stifle any type of third party. They do everything they can to keep the duopoly going, and it's really just a big gravy train. And we have two right-wing parties. One is a neo-fascist party. The other is a neoliberal party. Is there anything we could possibly do that would make that even worse? Yes, the concept of a recall in California makes our joke of a system even freaking worse because of how ridiculous it is. What happens? Well, okay, so there's enough support for a recall. Enough people sign the paper and we get a recall. But here's what happens. It's not an actual election. What happens is you get a thing where you vote, should the governor be recalled? Yes or no. And you select yes or no. And then the second question is, who replaces the governor? And then you pick a candidate. But here's the thing. A bunch of people just randomly get on this ballot. Just a bunch of people randomly get on this ballot. Half the people, no one knows who the hell they are. More than half, probably 90%. No one even knows who they are. There's no campaigning. There's no real election season. It's just whoever has the money gets the media attention and becomes governor. It's basically the governorship is just thrown up for grabs to the highest bidder, and you can just buy your way into being governor. Literally. So it's a parody of a parody. Our election system is a parody. A recall makes a parody out of a parody. That's how fucking stupid it is. So that's what a recall election is in California. It's how Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor. And depending on the results of this, either Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner will become governor of California if the recall goes forward. So my short explanation here is I will be voting no on the recall because of how ridiculous a recall is. And because as much as I dislike Gavin Newsom, I'd rather beat him with someone better in 2022 than have this ridiculous bullshit recall process go forward and then either Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner becomes governor. I'd rather just have an actual election. Well, the election will happen no matter what, but I'd rather just have an actual election where we try to replace Gavin Newsom with somebody better. That's what I'd rather have than replace him with somebody worse like Caitlyn Jenner or Larry Elder. But there's more reasons why I'm voting no on this. So the short answer is a recall is a waste of time. It is a waste of money. It is a waste of resources. And it basically is just a scam of a scam. I'm usually very weary about supporting any such thing. And this one, as much as I dislike Gavin Newsom, I can't support this recall. I'm gonna vote no on the recall. Um, and it's similar to other things where it's like, even though you dislike the candidate, you can't get behind. It's kind of like, this isn't maybe a perfect comparison, but it's sort of like why I wasn't a big fan of all the impeachment charades around Donald Trump. I dislike Donald Trump with every fiber of my being. Donald Trump was absolutely terrible. Um, he wasn't the worst president we had. George W. Bush was, but I digress. But as much as I dislike Donald Trump, I was never big on the impeachment charades. A, because I knew a lot of it was political theater. They didn't even look into a lot of the real financial crimes he was doing. Why? Because they were complicit with it. They being Republicans and Democrats. And B, because I was like, well, what? Mike Pence? Donald Trump is a buffoon. Mike Pence is way more freaking dangerous. So it's a similar thing here. Gavin Newsom is not a good governor, and he does not deserve to be governor of California. But the state of California does not deserve what would happen if Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner became governor for a year. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing, and we're going to go through this. Couple things at play here. First of all, while I am no fan of Gavin Newsom, one thing I will say about what's been going on as of recent, and this backs up a principle that I firmly believe, or a rule of thumb that I firmly believe, and that rule of thumb is the only time a politician does anything good is when they're scared of losing their job. You guys know that's a rule of thumb for me. Only time a politician does anything good when they're scared of losing their job. Gavin Newsom is scared of losing his job. So all of a sudden, he found billions of dollars to build the biggest broadband infrastructure California's ever seen. And it would be a leader in the country if it goes forward. All of a sudden, he found the money for that and he supports it. All of a sudden, he's denying fracking permits. He's doing that. He's denying fracking permits. And all of a sudden, he's doing this. He's doing this too. Governor Newsom and the EPA Administrator Reagan, unfortunate name there. We'll go with Regan. Discuss shared commitment to supporting, it might be pronounced Regan, I'm not sure. Discuss shared commitment to supporting communities recovering from wildfires. So they have actual plans in place to put money into wildfire and to put money into the upcoming droughts. Supporting communities across the state, the governor's 2021 state budget includes $113.5 million general fund and $103.5 million in anticipated FEMA reimbursements, a total of $217 million for reconstruction and restoration of wildfire damages in 2020. Of that total, $187 million is dedicated to the efforts at the Big Basin. So basically, Gavin Newsom, and we'll pull up another one here, because here's another thing. They're going to do something about the upcoming droughts too. And we need this money to go to the right people. California secures presidential major disaster declaration to support wildfire response and recovery efforts. And they're going to try to reduce impact of future disasters. And they say something about droughts too. All right, let me find that part. I know it's in here somewhere. In addition, the state provided, although wildfires are actively burning, the state and its partners are working quickly to provide California communities the resources they need to get back home as soon as possible and as soon as it's safe to do so. The state is already removing household hazardous waste due to fires in multiple counties, the first stage of returning damaged properties to their owners. There are also teams on the ground conducting damage assessments, documenting the extent of the losses so that the state can maximize its request for federal aid. In addition, the state provided millions of dollars in California Disaster Assistance Act public assistance advance funding to Plumas and Alpine counties. This advance funding provides financial assistance from the state for costs incurred by local governments because of a disaster event. So there you go. These things are happening. And I would rather see somebody have to deliver on these promises for the next year than somebody like Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner become governor of California. I'd rather see that. I'd rather see a scared governor have to deliver on things that our climate needs. And again, Gavin Newsom's been no friend to the climate. Like, don't get me wrong here. This is not, I mean, me voting no on the recall is not a vote for Gavin Newsom. It's a vote against the recall. That's what it is. Because I know what'll happen. I know what'll happen. Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner will become governor. And so let's play it out. Let's play out future scenarios. So let's say that the recall does go through and Governor Newsom is no longer Governor Newsom, and either Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner becomes governor. You know who really benefits? Because I know some people, I've heard some people say things like, I'm going to vote yes on it because fuck Gavin Newsom. Like, okay, all right, we'll go with that. And other people have said, fuck Gavin Newsom, fuck the Democrats. Like, okay, I mean, I share your frustration with both those things. Here's the deal, though. If Gavin Newsom loses his gig, Gavin Newsom, that's a bummer for him. He'll feel embarrassed and humiliated, sure. And it'll be, you'll have a little bit of a smirk, seeing that guy, kind of be removed from office. I mean, I don't like the guy either. I get it. But he'll probably go on to get some kind of book deal, go on to do some speaking tours. He'll be just fine. He's fine, folks. Who did you really just do a big favor for, though? If Gavin Newsom loses his gig, who'd you do a big favor for? Well, first of all, Republicans in California, you did them a big favor. They got power for a bit. You did Nestle a huge favor. Nestle is dying to privatize the water supply completely in California. They're dying to do it. If they do it, it's game over. The CEO of Nestle is on the record saying water is not a human right. They privatize our water supply to Nestle, it's game over. It is game over. We are done. This place will be, unless you're super rich, no one will be able to live here. It's already that way in many ways. It's very difficult for people who aren't rich who live in California. It ain't easy. Believe me, sometimes when I think about what rent is for people in other places, it's depressing as all hell. But so that's going to happen. That would happen. And, well, I don't know if it would happen. I shouldn't say like that will for sure happen, but Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner would definitely be open to that. And yeah, it's not like they can just snap their fingers and make that happen. But hey, do you trust the California Democratic Party to not get behind something like that? I don't. I don't trust them. I don't trust our state legislature not to get behind something like that. But with Gavin Newsom at the reins, something like that's definitely not going to happen in the next year. It might happen someday. I don't trust Gavin Newsom to never do something like that. He's no friend of the environment. Don't get me wrong. But it's not going to happen in the next year. It just isn't. There's no way. If he's governor, it does not happen within the next year. That's just a fact. So you're doing Nestle a favor. And here's the other group. You're doing a huge favor. A huge favor. And this is the group that, by the way, you're doing them the biggest favor of all. You ready for this? The Democratic establishment. What, Ron? That sounds weird. So wait, you're saying that if Gavin Newsom loses his gig, the Democratic establishment, the DNC, the Democratic Party in California, they win the most? Yes, I am. Why are you saying that, Ron? Because they are going to fundraise out the wazoo, folks. Oh my God, are they going to just play it out in your head? A Republican becomes governor of California. It's either going to be Caitlyn Jenner or Larry Elder. And they're running the place for a year. They're going to do all kinds of absolutely terrible things. The Democrats are going to be fundraising out the wazoo. They're going to be saying, we got to get rid of this governor. Give us money, give us money, give us money, give us money. And they're going to get that money, baby. It's going to pummel in. They're going to raise so much money. Then you know what they're going to do? They're going to run the most conservative candidate they possibly can. And they're going to, they're going to justify it because they're going to say, well, clearly, because a Republican's governor right now, a lot of people are leaning more conservative here. So we need to have a conservative Democrat to beat them. In reality, They just want to get someone in there who's going to make the donors the most happy. And because they think they can get away with it, because so many people are just going to vote anyone except for the Republican who got in, because again, in a recall election, it's not the will of the majority. It's just whoever gets the most votes. So someone could get like 4% of the vote. And if everyone else gets less than that, they're freaking governor. That's why a recall is just a scam of a scam. It's literally just letting someone buy a governorship. Literally, that's all it is. So they'll just run some conservative Democrat in 2022. That's what will happen. That's what will happen if Gavin Newsom gets recalled. Now, if he doesn't get recalled, and for a year, so for 1 year, we're going to be able to push this guy harder on climate, which, again, he's no friend to the climate, but there have been some steps taken in a better direction. And we have a better chance at doing a lot of good things for climate on the state level in California than we do through the Biden administration. So that is significant. The fact that fracking permits are now being denied, is it enough? No. Do we need to roll back a bunch of other fracking permits? Yes. But is it better than a bunch of them getting approved? Obviously. And these plans to put millions into drought prevention, which, by the way, we are a few years away from a significant drought. There are already counties in California that do not have water. It's already happening. We don't hear about them because they're very rural, poor counties. The media does not talk about it, but it's already happened. It's already happening. And Gavin Newsom, we are in a position where we have an opportunity to put significant money towards this into the hands of the right people who are going to do something. And Gavin Newsom is starting to do that. It's not enough, and I'm not trying to pretend it is. Nor am I trying to pretend he's some great governor. He's not. He's not a great governor. And he does not deserve to be governor. But we don't deserve what would happen with this recall election, because I just played it out for you. Whereas if Gavin Newsom keeps his gig for another year, he has all these promises he has to uphold. He has all these promises he has to uphold if he wants to keep his job. And he does want to keep his job. Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot to include this. Ron, are you sure that the Democratic establishment would really win? Win not in the literal sense, but really win if a Republican became governor? Yes, I'm sure. And here's some proof. Check this out. All right, so this is the official stance. This is a tweet from Dave Anthony, very funny comedian. I love his podcast, The Dollop. And Dave's actually never been on this show, but I really got to get him on. All right, so here's his tweet. Dave says, Newsom's text bankers are telling people not to worry about voting for a candidate after voting no on recall. Democrats will kill us all at some point. So here's a text message from their campaign. And I've been getting similar text messages like this too. Everyone in California has. Ballots need to be postmarked and returned by 8 p.m. on election day, but we recommend putting them in the mail ASAP. The ballot will have two parts. Question 1 asks, shall Gavin Newsom be recalled from the office of governor? And you should vote no in order to keep Governor Newsom in office. You should vote no because in my opinion, you should vote no because the recall is a total scam and because we'd be better off beating this guy in 2022 than right now. You should vote no because it's a strategic. It's the best way to move strategically, not because Gavin Newsom deserves to be governor, not because Gavin Newsom is a good governor. He is neither one of those two things. But the time to beat him is 2022. And it's with someone better. Question 2 allows voters to choose a replacement candidate. Again, this is from their campaign. But Governor Newsom can't be part of that list. You can leave the second question blank. So here's what Dave said, and Dave's freaking right. You shouldn't tell people to leave the second blank because if he gets recalled, we end up with Elder. You guys really have no idea what you are doing. I disagree with Dave slightly. They do know what they're doing. They would rather, if Gavin Newsom can't keep his job, they'd rather see a Republican become governor because then they know the gravy train that's in store for them. They'd rather see. They're not going to endorse somebody. They want to see their boy Gavin keep his gig. And if he can't keep his gig, fuck you, California. Deal with Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner. Larry Elder's the more likely, I think. But deal with one of them. They're going to be terrible. And then we're going to raise money off of it. We're going to raise so much freaking money. That should prove it to you. This is a huge if he gets recalled, and I'm just saying, if you want to vote yes on the recall because you think you're giving a fuck you to the Democrats, you're doing the opposite. You're actually doing the opposite. You're giving them the greatest gift you could give them. They are going to fundraise so much freaking money. And yeah, Gavin Newsom will be embarrassed, sure. Then he'll get a huge book deal, and he'll be seen as some kind of hero in like the Mick resisted circles. He'll be just fine. California won't be. He will be. He'll be just fine. So, as much as I dislike Gavin Newsom, and I am no fan of Gavin Newsom, I will be voting no on this recall. I will be voting no on this recall, and then I'll be hoping in 2022 we replace Gavin Newsom with somebody better. We have an actual election season, and we have a progressive candidate who can hopefully beat him. And I know that's not an easy feat. But at least there's a chance. Here, there's no chance. Here, it's like, I mean, this is just, it's up for grabs, and Larry Elder's going to grab it, or Caitlyn Jenner's going to grab it. That's what's going to happen if this recall goes through. That is what will happen. There's no chance. I mean, there's no. I mean, I'm going to vote for probably either a Green or a Socialist. I'm not even sure. There's like 50 some names on the ballot. There's been no campaigning. There's been no election season. There's been none of that. That doesn't exist here. So there's no media coverage for anyone except for the people who have the big bucks to build their own PR campaign, basically. And that's Larry Elder and that's Caitlyn Jenner. And here you have the Newsom campaign basically in a very subtle way being like, you either let Newsom keep his gig or go fuck yourself, California, because we're going to raise a lot of money. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. So I'd rather have Gavin Newsom as a wounded governor who's not very popular have to spend this year delivering on his promises because he's really scared of losing his job. And he realizes that there's a lot of people who are fed up with him. And he's going to try to win some of those people over. You think he's denying fracking permits because he's a nice guy? You think he's doing these things for the environment because he feels like it? No, he's doing it because he's scared of losing his job. You think he has that billions in infrastructure for you think that billions in infrastructure for broadband? He found it under a fucking couch cushion? No, we have a surplus and he wants to put it to good use because he's scared of losing his job. So I'd rather see a scared Gavin Newsom for another year. And then we hopefully replace him with someone better in 2022. So that is why I'm voting no on the recall. Some of you have been asking about it. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. What a shit system. I mean, how shitty is it when it's like that's your situation where it's like, yeah, this is this is what it is. You know, like even if he loses his gig, you just get, and this is why we can't have a duopoly. This is why the duopoly needs to change. We shouldn't be in these situations. We shouldn't be in these situations where, well, I'm going to vote no on this recall because even though this guy is not a good governor and is a terrible governor, this will make the situation even worse. And this is just a scam of a scam. So I'm voting no on the recall. But I want to see this guy not be governor, but I want to do it the old-fashioned way through an actual election, even though the elections are still very much just a scam. This is why we need to break the duopoly, folks. Because the Democrats, they don't even give a shit. They're just like, let our guy keep his gig. Or they're telling people to leave it blank. They know what will happen if people leave it blank. It's not like, oh, we never thought of this. They know. They know that the Democratic Party in California, they've been through recalls before. They know how it freaking works. They're subtly, and by the way, if they really gave a shit about anything, he would have just resigned anyway, so he wouldn't even be in this situation. He would have stepped down. So nobody involved gives a fuck about you. Gavin Newsom doesn't give a fuck about you. The California Democrats don't give a fuck about you. The California Republicans don't give a fuck about you. Larry Elder doesn't give a fuck about you. Caitlyn Jenner doesn't give a fuck about you. No, there are no good guys here, folks. All we have is our movement and our strategy. And I say the right strategy is let this guy be scared. Make him stay in the seat and make him be scared for a year. And say, hey, man, you're scared. You barely got through this recall. You got to deliver on all these things. You got to deliver. This money needs to be delivered. You got to keep denying the fracking permits, which he has been doing. I'm fair where it's due. The guy's been denying fracking permits. He's been doing that. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I'm going to vote no on the recall. And how gross is it that this is what our system is? How gross is it? So that's my take. You guys have been asking. That's my take. Let me look at the chat. Let me see what you guys are saying. Red Pill, what's up? How are you? Good to see you. Red Pill, yes, Ron, be grateful for what we have. I feel you, Red Pill. Thank you for that. Robert Gilbert, what's up? My grandcat sneakers sends his love and get well wishes to Lucy. Thank you so much for that, Robert. I appreciate that so much. Cheers. Thank you, Red Pill. Thank you, Robert. And Venetia David, thank you so much. Again, hello to London. Good seeing you today. And thank you very much for the cat sticker that says hiya. I appreciate it very much. And thank you very much for your super chat contribution. And hello to everybody over at the Rockfin. And right on, everybody. So a couple other announcements. My movie trailer is out. And if you have some money to spare, give it to the mutual aid efforts in New Orleans. If you got money to spare, give it to mutual aid efforts in New Orleans. But if you have a little bit after that, if you have money to spare after that, and you want to see my movie get made, please do consider making a contribution to help make this movie a reality. So let's see. I will drop the link here in the chat, and I'll drop it for all you guys in the Rockfin and in the YouTube. And you can also check it out for everyone watching the podcast later. You can check it out at on my Twitter. It's my pinned tweet. You can also check it out on my YouTube channel, which is just Ron Placone. My Twitter is also just Ron Placone. Or you can go to GoFundMe directly and just type in Left at Wall, and it'll all be right there. You can just type in Left at Wall, and it'll all be right there. Let's see. What's up, MHC? Thank you very much for the Rockfin tip. I think that there might still be place for a recall process in general. But it shouldn't be like this. We should be using a ranked choice voting system, so we can't have someone elected with less than a majority. I would also like to see some sort of mandatory debates because there's usually no information on people running in local elections. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I'm not against the concept of a recall, but the way we go about it is just bullshit. It's just bullshit. I mean, yeah, if it was a ranked choice voting system and if there was an actual election season and actual debates and actual like people understood who was running and who the candidates were even, then yeah, that'd be a different story. But that's not what we do here. It's just not. It's exactly how I described, and it's a total scam. So that's why I'm. But I will say this, and I've said this before. The one thing I do like about it, even though a lot of the recall is for all the wrong reasons, like a lot of the reasons they don't like Gavin Newsom, it's for all the wrong reasons. It's largely a right wing thing, although there's some people participating on the left too, so it's not all one side. But you know, I do love the fact that because he's freaking scared, he's doing some good things. I do love that. I mean, part of me is like, man, is there any way that in 2022 I could vote for Gavin Newsom who's scared of a recall? I like that Gavin Newsom who's scared of a recall better than Gavin Newsom. So I do like that part of it. And that's why I'm saying I'm voting no on it because I want him to stay scared. He'll still be scared. If he skates through this, he'll still be scared because he's got an election coming up in 2022. And he's gonna know like he's vulnerable. He's vulnerable. So yeah. So thank you for your thoughts, MHC. Thank you very, very much for that. I appreciate it very, very much. And all right. So for everybody, I just dropped the GoFundMe link, and I got to thank some of the other GoFunders for the movie for Left at Wall. First of all, let me see here. Private, thank you. Thank you, Private. I appreciate your contribution very much. Another Private, thank you very much. Private and Private. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bob Schluber, what's up, man? Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob. And shout out to Political Misfits. Check them out over on Radio Sputnik. Political Misfits, very fun show that Bob is the co-host of, and they have me on occasionally, and I always have a fun time with them. It's always a fun show to do. So thank you, Bob, for your contribution. And Mark Danislavsky, I hope I pronounced your name right. Mark Danislavsky, thank you very much for your contribution for Left at Wall. Thank you so, so much. And I can't wait to break ground on this movie and bring it to all of you. And thank you guys so much for being here. And thank you again for all of your love and support throughout the past 5 days for Lucy. Again, and I know I talked about it a lot on today's show, and I hope I hope that's okay. But I'm looking over at her right now, and it has been a little bit of a time, and I'm very thrilled that I'm able to say she's doing better. And thank you so, so much for your love and support and for your understanding. I'll be back tomorrow with Savage Joy. It's that time of the month with Savage Joy tomorrow. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow, and she says thank you. And I say peace, and I say thank you. And I say peace, love, and a general strike. See you tomorrow.